What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and today I have a update to my Danger Dark World deck. No, this is not gonna feature Gen and Ken. Just as a disclaimer, I really don't like the Gen Ken combo for the simple fact that it just feels worse than just playing straight up Danger Dark World. Granted, it does give you a normal summon, but like I said, I just don't like it. And with that being said, I'm just gonna jump straight into this. Um, it is a full 60 card main deck. I don't have a side deck put together, but if I was to put a side deck together, it would probably consist of like Bastiles and some other stuff that goes really good alongside. Well, not really good alongside Dark World, but goes well enough alongside Dark World that you can continue your plays fairly easily. And starting us off, we have 3 copies of the Overking Rainbow, or Rainbow Overking of the Dark World. Because he's the best level 8 in the deck now. If you don't know what Rainbow does, if he's discarded, you can search a level 5 or higher Dark World monster from your deck to your hand, and then you can return a level 7 or lower Dark World monster from your field back to your hand and summon him. Goes really well with Grapha, but also pairs really well with just the other level 5s. And then I'm on 3 copies of Genta, Gateman of the Dark World. Genta gives you flexibility on your snow searches because he can pitch himself to add your field spell from your deck to your hand, not once per turn. And then if he's banished while you control a Dark World card, you can special summon him from banish. Really good level 4 extender. Then I'm on 3 copies of Snow, Unlight of the Dark World, or Unlight of Dark World. She is, whenever she's discarded, you add a Dark World monster from or not Dark World card from your deck to your hand, and then then her effect when discarded by an opponent's card effect isn't gonna come up. That's why I'm only going over effects that are when discarded by card effect rather than when discarded by opponent's card effect. Especially if they're weird like Snow, because I believe Snow is like rip a card, or no. Oh, no, she summons something from your opponent's graveyard to your side of the field, if discarded by opponent's card effect. But like I said, not really going to come up in this list, because I'm not on Ceruli, and I'm not on, like, hand loop stuff. Then I'm on 3 copies of Beige. I feel like if you play any less, not. Playing less than 3 of Beige is not my favorite. I really like Beige. He's simple. If he's discarded, special summon him. And that's all you need to know. And then we have 3 copies of Brow, uh, Huntsman of the Dark World. Yeah. Let me move this stuff over just a touch. There we go. That's better. And then Brow is whenever he's discarded, you draw a card, and then if he's discarded by an opponent's card effect, you draw 2. Now now we go in territory that's a bit weird, because I'm on 2 copies of Grapha, and I see a lot of lists playing 3 Grapha now, but I still think 2 is the better number, mainly because of his ability to be recycled, because the fusion Grapha recycles him. You can search him off of Rainbow, and then you have other ways of recycling cards in the deck, which is why I play 60 cards and whatnot. So Grapha, if he's discarded by your card effect, you target a card your opponent controls, destroy it. And then if he's discarded by your opponent's card effect, you force your opponent to randomly discard a card, I believe. I'm not too sure on that one, because like I said, I don't get that effect off very often. And then, while he's in your graveyard, you can return any Dark World monster from your field back to your hand to special summon him. Then I'm on 2 copies each of Silva and Gold. Both of these have the same effect as Beige, where if they're discarded, they're special summoned. However, they get bonus effects. Silva lets you hand loop your opponent for 2, and then Gold lets you twin twister your opponent's back row. But as I said, in this, we're not really going for that. So you could play any of the level 5 or higher when discarded special summon monsters. So you could play 3 Lucent, or you could do what I'm doing and playing 2 and 2 of Gold and Silva. Just because they seem like the more, you know, flexible of the level 5 discarders. Because if you get in the Dark World mirror match, then yeah, this thing, or then that can, or this can come up. These two can come up in a mirror. And that's about it. And that is it for the Dark World monsters. So let us move on to the Dark World spell cards. Starting us off, we have 3 copies of the beloved Gates of the Dark World. Gates of the Dark World gives all of your fiends. Yeah, it gives all fiend type monsters a 300 attack and defense point boost. And then you can banish a fiend from your graveyard, discard a card, and draw a card. The banish is the only part that is cost because all of the Dark World monsters miss timing when discarded as cost as opposed to discarded as effect. One thing to note if you do plan on piloting this deck is all monsters only get their effects when discarded for effect and not for cost. That's why Gates of the Dark World banishes for cost and then makes you discard and draw. And then I'm on 3 copies of Dark World Dealings because Dealings, although yes, it does give your opponent a draw, you're benefiting from it more because it gives you information on what your opponent is playing, and it also gives you a way to extend your plays, and it's a searchable draw spell, so I play 3 of it. And then I'm on 2 copies of Dark World Ascension. This is the fusion spell, and this card has a really good effect in the graveyard where you can add it back to your hand by discarding a card. Doesn't matter what card you discard, just add it from your graveyard back to your hand by discarding. And then I'm on 2 copies of Dark World Archives. This is a standard ratio that I see is either 1 or 2 Ascension, 2 Archives. And Archives is really good because you can discard a Fiend from your hand to make all of your monsters you currently control gain attack equal to its level times 100. And then, if a monster that was that's original type is Fiend is discarded by card effect, you can discard a card and draw 2 cards, all as an effect. All as an effect. So you trade in, but all as an effect. You don't have to discard as cost. And that is going to be it for the Dark Worlds here in the main deck. Now let's move on to the Dangers. Starting us off, we have 3 copies of Danger Nessie. Danger Nessie is super important to this, and being able to have 3 Nessie means you have, in theory, 3 extra copies of all of your other Dangers, because if you guys don't know, which I don't know how you wouldn't know unless you've gotten to Yu-Gi-Oh! Within the last, 2 or 3 years. Ah, God, when did Dangers fall out of relevance? Regardless, Nessie, when all the Dangers have the same effect where you can reveal them in your hand, and then your opponent randomly discards one from your hand. Simple enough. But then each of them have their individual effects, and I'm not going to go over that reveal to make your opponent randomly discard effect every time, just this one instance. And Nessie's individual effect is if it's discarded, you add a Danger from your deck to your hand. Next up, we have 3 copies of Danger Ogopogo. Danger Ogopogo's individual effect is he Foolish Burial's a Danger. That effect doesn't really matter in this deck. I don't play it for the effect. I play it for the fact that it's a level 8, because this deck plays rank 8s, and, being able to put names on the board is really good, and the more Dangers you have, the more consistent the deck is, because the Dangers are essentially just in here as draw cards. because they all draw a card. So if they discard the name, obviously you get the discard effect. If they don't, you summon the name and then draw a card. And then I'm on 3 copies of Thunderbird. Again, another one that's like, I'm playing it because it's a level 8, but its discard effect can come up. If it's discarded, it targets a spell trap your opponent or on the field, I believe. I don't know if it's specifically that your opponent controls or if it's on the field off the top of my head, but I know it targets a spell trap and blows it up when discarded, which is, I mean, it can come up. It's pretty good. Now, here's one with an actually relevant discard effect. We have 3 copies of Danger Mothman, and Mothman is Dark World dealings when discarded. He lets you draw. He lets both you and your opponent draw one and discard one. And it being a level 4 is very important. So yeah, because like I said, we're playing rank 8, rank 4. We're playing the fusions, so on and so forth. And now we have another one that I see people not playing 3 of in Dark World lists, and it just kind of blows my mind. We have 3 copies of Danger Chupacabra. Now the reason why not playing 3 Chupacabra kind of blows my mind a little bit is because Chupacabra is a fiend. It is a level 4 Dark Fiend, which means you can banish Chupacabra off of your gates, and it has other like small synergies here and there. Or like with archives, where if you discard a fiend or a monster whose type was originally fiend, you get to discard 1, draw 2. Yeah, if you discard a Chupacabra, you can discard 1, draw 2. I believe, unless it specifically needs a Dark World monster. But even at that, Chupacabra has a lot of extra synergies because it's a fiend, and it being level 4 is actually also really, really good. Then we have 3 copies of Danger Bigfoot, again in here because it's a level 8, but has a relevant discard effect. If it's discarded, you target a monster on the field, destroy it. That's about as simple as it gets. And then we have our 1 Danger Jackalope and our 1 Danger Tsuchinoko. Both of these are in here for the same reason. One, they're both at 1 for a reason. They're really, really good. And 2, they're guaranteed bodies on the board. If Jackalope is discarded, you summon 1 from the deck. And if Tsuchinoko is discarded, you summon it from the graveyard. So no matter what, if you hit, or if either of these get hit from any of your discard effects, you just get a body anyways, and that it helps you with link climbing and everything, and that is it for the dangers. I'm basically playing all of the playable dangers that you would want to play in Dark World, which is all of the level 4s and all of the level 8s on top of playing the Nessie, Jackalope, and Tsuchinoko. Then we have our just generic cards, generic spells, I should say, because I'm not playing any hand traps. Because when you're constantly discarding, hand traps are not that great, which kind of sucks when going into a board because, yeah. But starting us off, we have 3 copies of Drag Down to the Grave. Drag Down is a very it's not a weird card. It's a very good card in this deck specifically, and it's another one that kind of tells what your opponent is on. Sorry, camera was unfocused. It's another card that's like, you can get information on what your opponent's on. Yeah, they get information on what's in your hand, but by the end of your turn, what is in your hand by the time you use Drag Down to the Grave is not going to be there anymore. And it lets you get rid of a card in your opponent's hand. Granted, yes, they do get to draw a replacement card, but if you get rid of starters and stuff like that, and you can fire through 2, 3 of these in a single turn, which is really good. Then we're on 3 copies of Allure because Pot of Greed is banned for a reason. And then we're on 3 copies of Pot of Avarice to help keep the danger gravy train flowing. So, yeah, Avarice is good in here, unless, your opponent's on Crow or Shifter or whatever. Now we get into the extra deck. And this is why I didn't do a side deck, because this video is already going to be really fucking long. Starting us off in the extra deck, we have 2 copies of the Grapha Fusion. I see a lot of people only run 1 of this, and the only time I would recommend going down to 1 of the Grapha Fusion is when we get colorless Chaos King of the Underworld, or Chaos King of Dark World, or whatever its name is, because colorless is coming in the next Maze set, and colorless is a card I want, and it's a really, really good card for the deck. And these are the only fusions you're running. So Fusion Grapha has this effect where when your opponent activates any card effect, you can quick effect force it into an effect that says your opponent discards a card. So if your opponent goes normal summon whatever, right? They go normal summon, or they go normal summon Unchained Monster, activate Unchained Monster's effect. Cool. Or, they go wanted uh the Diabellstar engine starter that they use to search Diabellstar herself. You can on that make it to where instead of it being add Diabellstar from your deck to your hand, it's your opponent discards a card, which is really good because it kind of offsets that. Granted, you would save it for a more important card. I want to say, I feel like you'd save it for like a Hydrant or some other effect when in the Rescue Ace matchup. Then I'm also on 1 copy of Dingirsu, the Orchist of the Evening Star, mainly because of his on summon effect, being able to send a card, send a card to the graveyard, being able to get around stuff without destruction, and I believe it doesn't target, is really, really nice. So Dingirsu, super strong card, really good in here for going second, but also going if you go first, you can establish your board, and then when on the crackback, summon this to out anything that is harming your way into lethal. This can out anything that's blocking, or it can out roadblocks. And then I'm on 1 copy of Tornado Dragon, which is relatively decent against some decks right now. It can be good against Rescue Ace a little bit. It's actually this card's actually bad against Unchained. It can be good against Labyrinth. Oh, yeah, I mean, it depends on if you go first against Labyrinth or not, but, Tornado Dragon has its niche instances of playability, and right now is not one of them, so the extra deck is a very flexible thing. The only mandatories are, I'll come across them, but Grapha is a mandatory. Dingirsu and Tornado Dragon are not mandatory. However, number 38 is, because he's part of your end board, and number 38 is just really good. If y'all don't know what number 38 does, he is a spell negate and attaches a spell card to him as material, which is really good in the case of Rescue Ace, because in the case of Rescue Ace, if your opponent goes emergency, you can negate and then steal the emergency as an Xyz material, and that gives them 1 less card to banish out of the graveyard for Turbulence. And then in cases where it's like Unchained, you can use it on thrusts. You can use it on Triple Tactics Thrust. You can use it on Talent. You can use it on anything that's a spell card. And then he has this cool little effect where you can detach a material to redirect an attack to him, which is really dope. And then another mandatory is number 60, Dugaris the Timeless. He's a draw card, detach 2 materials, skip your next draw phase, draw 2 cards, discard a card. Really good card in this deck. And then here's another flex spot, one that you don't have to play, but if you choose to play it, it's understandable. And that's number 41, Baguska the Terribly Tired Tapir. Baguska is in here because, well, plan B. Gotta have a plan B. And that is what Baguska is. Plan Baguska. because, you know, his blanket skill drain, pseudo skill drain, or his lose a turn effect is pretty good. And then I'm on one copy of Muckraker from the Underworld. This card is now affordable because of its prismatic secret rare printing in the Megatins, which I looked at how much Megatin cases are. If y'all are looking for something a little expensive to get your Yu-Gi-Oh buddies, and you know they're looking for cards that could get them into the meta, a case of the Megatins is going for $105, which I know is a lot to drop, but $105 for 12 Megatins when they're supposed to MSRP for 20, you're paying for 5 and you're getting 7 for free in a way. And with that, I'm gonna talk about Muckraker. So Muckraker can protect a card you control by sending a fiend to the graveyard. Whoop-de-doo. But she has this effect where you can target a fiend in your graveyard, and I believe discard or summon the card that you target and then discard a card. And the discard is part of the effect, not part of the cost. So Muckraker is really good because she's a Monster Reborn. Unfortunately, cannot be used as link material the turn she's summoned, but that doesn't mean, you know, you can't use her to help you make Plan Baguska. But she also helps you extend into other plays, and she can also set you up with some other really neato things. And then I'm also on one copy of Saryuja Skull Dread because Saryuja is, you know, man. If you're playing Dark World, you're playing Saryuja. There's no way around it. And then I'm also on one copy of Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. You know, monster negates. Fairly decent right now because a fair amount of cards are tacked onto or a fair amount of effects right now are tacked onto monsters. So having a way to stop monster effects is really good. And this deck is really good at playing through Nib because, you know, it's either they nib you before you make Apo and then you make Apo anyways, or they just have a dead card in their hand. So nib against this build is just kind of stupid, depending on the hand. If you have gas on gas on gas, you know, nib means nothing. But if you open like a iffy hand or your draws are pretty iffy, you know, then yeah, nib can really hurt. And then I'm also on one copy of the Dark Charmer, mainly because of Bystials running around in the format every now and then. And plus you can occasionally steal Labyrinth monsters from the graveyard, you know, because they're dark. So dark is pretty good at helping you also go for game. And then I'm on one copy each of Nightmare Griffin, Nightmare Unicorn, Nightmare Cerberus, and Nightmare Phoenix. So part of the end board to this is Nightmare Griffin. Griffin is a skill drain while co-linked. So if you the end board is Apo plus Griffin plus Fusion Grapha that is being pointed to, and then number 38 that is also being pointed to, which you can accomplish by simply having Apo co-linked to Griffin, and then either way, if they get rid of the Apo, cool. One card that does hurt that is Lava Golem, because they can just Lava Golem away your 2 Link monsters, and then you're left with a Spell Negate and something that forces you to discard. But with that being said, let me reorganize everything, and then we'll get right on into the outro. Alright guys, I hope you did enjoy this 60 card Danger Dark World deck. Again, I just personally don't like the idea of playing Gen and Ken, but if you want to play the Gen Ken build, there's plenty of lists all over YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that that have 40 card Gen Ken lists, and they play like hand traps and stuff. I don't like that for Dark World. Dark World to me is barf out a massive board, and then go to town on the crackback. And that's what this build is. It's barf out the most obscene board you can, which I'm pretty sure there are better cards to be playing in the extra deck that would help you build even better boards. But regardless, um, yeah, this is my list. This is how I play Dark World. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.